Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel, and I am, of course, joined by my co-host, who I have framed for murder many times, Tanner Dykstra. And today, we're here to talk about the latest entry in the long-running Scream franchise, Scream 6. Yes, they put a number on it this time, as opposed to, I don't know, just Scream again last year. But we're back a year later, though we didn't do a review of last year's film. We did see it, and we both liked that movie, and we're here to give our spoiler-free thoughts on Scream 6. We're very excited to have everyone here with us to talk about some killings and some stabbings and some screamings. It's going to be a lot of fun, Tanner. Thank you for joining me, but hold on.
Whoa,
Whoa,
whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa,
I
whoa, whoa,
want
whoa.
the people who are joining us to watching this video
Oh
to
yeah.
subscribe to our channel. It's YouTube. You got to do it, or else I'll be sad very
I think
personally.
it's I think it's the law
Codified into
actually.
law. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Biden's America.
Mm-hmm.
Also like the video and comment. Please comment. Comment
Yeah.
your favorite Scream movie. Actually,
Comment your Scream ranking. Scranking.
yeah, you're skranking. Yeah, give us your skranking. Tanner, we have now seen every entry in the Scream franchise.
It's
As of
true.
now, there'll probably be more in the future.
I
What
think
are
they
your
have.
thoughts on Scream 6?
Tucker, I was excited for Scream 6. Lots of positive reactions coming out about this one, but I have to say, underwhelmed by
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately. I do think this is my least favorite Scream film, although I
Hmm.
love the Scream franchise and still do like elements of this film. I'm coming in middling on it though, just because I feel like we're playing it a bit safe with the Scream
Hmm.
franchise now.
Hmm.
They're not taking the risks, they're not taking the swings, and I think that's present in a lot of elements of this film. But at the same time, the elements of Scrifivum that I enjoyed are
Yeah.
still somewhat present here. So, but Tucker, what did you think?
I have to agree with the overwhelmingly positive reactions because I am not a traditional Scream fan.
Hmm.
Scream fans, as we know them, and the world at large, you open up your window, they're everywhere. God, you can't get rid of
You
them.
open up your door and I'm right there.
He's always there. I can't get
Haha.
rid of him. Hold the older films in super high regard, and I'm a big
True.
Wes Craven fan. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I really like every film in the Scream franchise, but for me, they're just about on par. But it's the freshness and modern take on the franchise since it has come back with Scream 5 last year that speaks to me more personally. So on the other end of the spectrum, this is one of my favorite Scream films. I don't think it's a perfect film, but I prefer the core four that we have here
Hmm.
over although Dewey's still my favorite character in the Scream franchise.
Hmm.
I never really cared for Sidney Prescott. I never really cared for Gail. And yeah, she's back in this one, and I take a snooze every time she's on screen. Though hey, but though Kirby being back, that's a great
Yeah.
call. So having those core four on screen, playing with modern storytelling tropes, and commenting on the era of horror filmmaking that I grew up with speaks
Hmm.
to me on a more personal level. And I do think that the twist here at the end, which of course we're not going to talk about until we get to our spoiler section, the twist at the end was compelling enough for me. The inclusion of Kirby coming back, the dynamic between those core four, and the brutality and continuing variety of the action horror set pieces, I think are fantastic. So even though this movie has a few moments where I'm like, that was a little weird writing wise, that felt a little bit off. On the whole, it was just such a fun ride
Hmm.
throughout that did keep me guessing, did keep me surprised. So even though it is a little bit safe, I think it's just about on par with the rest of the Scream franchise for me.
And here's what I'll say about this modern interpretation because I really enjoyed Scream 5. It is
Mm.
my second favorite Scream
It's
film,
my
second
first, it's
only
my favorite.
second only to, of course, the original, which I hold in high esteem. Probably one of my favorite horror movies, if not my favorite horror movie of all
Mm.
time. But what Scream 5 did so well is that modern interpretation. And that's what Scream is all about. It's about
Yeah.
commenting on, satirizing even the era of horror that it finds itself in. And, obviously that's hard to do when you're doing a sequel 2 years later. And I'm talking
Hmm.
about the first three films now. But even those were able to talk about, like no other film really had at that point, slasher films from the 80s, and in the second film sequels to those, and in the
Hmm.
third one how you round out that sort of series.
Yeah.
And then an important to this movie is Scream 4, which
Hmm.
is sort of set in that weird era that we don't really remember living in,
Yeah.
which is like that aughts hard reboot sort of
Hmm.
era of horror movies. And then of course Scream 5 was about the legacy sequels,
Hmm.
and now we're at Scream 6. And again, we're running into that issue that Scream 2 could have run into, which is
Mm.
we're not too far removed from what we were originally commenting on.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't innovate a whole lot,
That's
frankly.
that's totally true.
It doesn't
The
innovate on
element
its
here
messaging.
is that franchises are a thing,
Yeah.
and this is a franchise. But let's be 100% honest. I view anything with just a sequel or a couple sequels as a franchise.
And like
So
2 and 3 already did like the sequel and
yeah,
franchise
well, a
thing, the
franchise is
series. Yeah.
basically the same as sequel, so that doesn't
Hmm.
add too much nuance to that conversation. And I do think that the elements that they're trying to comment on modern legacy sequel, continuing franchises, all of that are the weaker elements of this film. I
And it was
think that
already done in 5.
yes, yeah, and to great effect. This
Yeah.
scene where they talk
Exactly.
about and they're like, "Hey,
Exactly.
it's Ryan
Yeah.
Johnson," all that, and me and Joe were laughing our asses off in that
Yeah.
theater. But that they certainly do not reach that level here. But I'm able to sort of put that aside because I
Hmm.
do think what is set up here, and as I talked about a little bit earlier, is this core cast of characters that we have. I find to be really compelling. I
Hmm.
think Sam being the daughter of one of the earliest killers in the franchise, Billy
Yep.
Loomis, and dealing with the trauma that's coming along with that, and she has this sort of uh, Billy Loomis talking to her, which is cheesy, but I kind of find to be kind
Oh
of
yeah. It's
fun.
it's yeah. It's good.
And the dynamic she has with Tara about being overbearing, overprotective, I think that's really interesting. Their friendship that they've built with the twins, Mandy, yeah,
Mindy.
Sorry, Mindy and Chad, I think is great. And the fact that they're dealing with they're going to therapy for what they went through in the first one, and there's this sort of Reddit presence about maybe she framed the killers. All of
Hmm.
this stuff, I think, adds a lot of texture to the dynamic of this group, Sam and Tara as characters. And I just find that to be so compelling that I would just watch a fun college drama about these people, comedy drama about these people. But
Hmm.
we get to have them face off against killers again. And I think that obviously just adds another layer of fun to it.
Yeah, and here's where I come. The cast is where I really come down on the middling nature of my reception to
Sure.
Scream 6. Is that there are moments where I'm liking these people. I especially love Mindy and Chad. I'm
Yeah.
glad that they made it out of the first film, and when they're here again. I love Randy in the first film as sort of the cynical, I know everything about horror movies. Let me explain the rules to you, and
Hmm.
therefore I love Mindy doing it here.
Yeah.
I love Chad. He's earnest. He's cheesy. He comes up with the core four for the
Yeah.
four of them. Love him. And I even like Jenna Ortega, and I wish she did get more screen time. But the focus
Yeah.
is, of course, on Samantha, played by Melissa Barrera, who is our main character. And I don't know if Melissa Barrera has leading lady charisma enough
Hmm.
for me.
Okay.
I find a number of moments where I think the real issue, I was trying to nail this down on the drive back from the theater. I think the issue is that they try to make her, they put a lot of effort into making her cool. Like,
Hmm.
Sydney Prescott was never like, they're putting effort into making her cool. She was the quintessential, like, final girl who turned into our series leader who was
Yeah.
being, tormented and chased down. Whereas they put a lot of effort into making Samantha cool and tortured and all these
Hmm.
things. I
Hmm.
don't know if it lands enough. The writing, I think, it's a solid idea, but I just don't know if Barrera's performance carries that across the finish line like it could. Like, and even the writing, and I guess this is not really a spoiler because, as you mentioned, there is sort of a conspiracy amongst the public that she is in fact Ghostface and that
Yeah.
she's been, scarred. She's the child of Billy Loomis and all these things, and that she's the killer. And if the movie was more sort of in mysterious about that,
Hmm.
maybe we follow Jenna Ortega and she's not sure if her sister has snapped.
Sure.
She
Hmm.
was always being spoken to by Billy Loomis, but immediately from the outset, we get the notion that that is not the case. It's someone else chasing these
Yeah.
core
Yeah. Of
four
course.
down. And yeah, I just kind of find that a missed opportunity there and a bit of middling feelings on, especially Melissa Barrera.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to be wholly negative. I think there are moments where she does bring it.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. And I think she's best in the moments of action and when she's
Yeah, yeah.
bouncing off the other characters, which is of
Yes.
course most of the film, but the dynamic between her and Tara, as I said, I think is very good. And I think that that balance needs to be struck better if these characters continue on in the future. And
Hmm.
having Jenna Ortega be a stronger focus of the film, split the focus on their dynamic a little bit harder. I think that really would goose it up. But as this stands as sort of a Sam story, I did find it very compelling. And I think that it also feels more distinct in my mind because I think that they used the shift of a setting to a big city really well. We saw Jason take Manhattan in Friday the
On the
13th Part
TV.
8 and also in
Hmm.
on TV in this movie. So obviously they're aware of it,
Hmm.
obviously.
Yeah.
but they use it so much better here than they did in Friday the 13th. I think that the idea of the subway scene that we've seen in all the trailers,
Mm-hmm.
of tons of people everywhere, this oppressive feeling of crowds,
Mm-hmm.
tall skyscrapers, alleyways.
The
These are things
bodega
that,
scene that we
yeah,
also saw in the trailers.
these
Yeah.
are elements and places and locations that haven't been riffed on in the Scream franchise before because they've all been relegated to one totally normal urban town,
Yeah.
but not the ultra urban New York City setting, which I think does give this a
Well,
distinct flavor.
well, obviously you have Hollywood in 3, which
Yeah, well,
I think
true.
they do a lot with thematically for 3, and we're getting very meta in 3
Hmm.
with the Hollywood setting, of course, and I enjoyed the New York City setting. I think it did make way for several interesting set pieces, especially the subway, like you
Yeah,
talked about, the paranoia and the going through the areas with no lights for Ghostface to sort of shift around in the crowds and
yeah,
stuff like that. It's good, and we saw Ghostface just like take out some random people in
yeah,
that
yeah,
bodega, just some random standers by, which
yeah. And
is uh,
it's that element
yeah,
of the action here that I think gooses it up a little bit for me. Is this is a brutal Ghostface killer. He is stabbing everyone. He'll stab random people on the street. He's just taking down people. Of course, there are violent killings in the other ones, but this is like stabbing them 10 times a piece. It's like, oh, okay, buddy. Oh, calm down, calm down.
yeah,
And I thought that brought a lot of energy to those sequences, which I liked a lot.
yeah. Tucker, is there anything else that we can talk about in the spoiler-free section? We talked about the
Spoiler
characters.
free,
Yeah.
that is a big element of this movie that is a spoiler, but the spoiler free descriptor of it is that
Yes.
this movie has the best location for a final fight that we've seen in the Scream
Okay.
franchise.
All
I
right.
loved it. And I'll talk about that in spoilers.
Yes, of course. And I also have thoughts on that. So we'll talk about that in spoilers. Should we give our scores
Yeah,
just so
yes, we
and get
should.
into spoilers here? I'm gonna give this one 5.7 out of 10.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go higher, obviously.
Yep.
No questions asked there. At a 7.7 out of 10. I really do like this movie, and I think that maybe on a rewatch with five closer in my head, if I watched 5 and 6 back to back, I think I would appreciate what they did here a little better. But as it stands, even though I loved five and it is my favorite Scream movie, the Scream movies don't stick with me
Hmm.
particularly much. I watched all of them last year, and I forgot that they went to Hollywood in 3. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you.
How
Um,
dare you? How dare you, frankly?
but I didn't remember much about five going into this other than
Hmm.
the basics of the characters. So I think there is more to dig into here, but I really did appreciate what they did.
Okay. Spoiler times. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. It's spoiler time now.
Yeah, fuck
And
off.
let's start off where you started off, Tucker. Let's talk about that final set piece
Yeah.
because I do like, and they got me a number of times where I'm like, oh, that's the jacket that the TV guy wore in the first movie. Oh, that's the answering machine from the first movie. That's the TV that fell on Stu's head from the first movie. And obviously multiple things from other movies, but I love Scream 1996 very much, and I recognized all those things.
Hmm.
But the final set piece, I thought it was good. I don't know if it's like the best. I think, and this is my personal bias towards the original Scream showing. I think the original Woodsboro home is I gotta go with, or even like one of the set pieces in 3 when they do where they read the recreation of the Woodsboro house is
Mm.
cool to me too. But this one ends in like the obviously the ghost face shrine.
Yeah.
And they're like falling onto museum cases and stuff like that. And we throw the TV on somebody's head again, and that's all fun and games. But I thought it was good. I'm not gonna say it was bad by any means, but
Yeah.
I'm just not like, oh, it's far and away the best. But tell me why you think it is.
I think that for me, it's just a difference in location of not being set in a home because so many of those final action set pieces are even with Scream 5 setting it in an abandoned movie theater with this big projector projecting on waving cloth in the
Hmm.
background and old-fashioned movie seats and dust and the verticality that can be used of having the upper deck of the
Yep.
seats
Yep.
that can be jumped down off of. All of that I think does contribute to a much different feeling for a final set piece. And on top of the fact that it is a culmination of the Scream franchise in the collection aspect, and that ties into the killer's character a little bit of his son being obsessed
Hmm.
with all the past Ghostface killers. I think that thematically for where this story was going and the killers, it makes a lot of sense of that location. And visually and choreography wise, I think that it adds a lot to that final action set piece that you can't just get out of setting in another house or a
Yeah.
bedroom or a kitchen or a
Or
backyard or a
and
pool or
I
whatever.
and Tucker, and I do have to point this out. I have to expose your Scream forgetfulness a little bit here. 2 also ends in a theater.
Hmm. Oh well, Whoops.
And this also harkens back to two. I
Yeah.
don't know if you recall, but and they do discuss this. They discuss all of the old Scream killers here,
Hmm.
where it was a family member of the original killer coming
Yeah.
back for revenge, and Billy Loomis's mother, their grandmother actually, which is briefly mentioned, and I don't know if they put enough emphasis on that, but
Hmm.
I digress. But yeah, I thought it was neat. I do I maybe would have liked to see more. I mean, they take the knives from the ghost face things, and they drop the TV on his
Yeah.
head again. But yeah, I liked it. I
But
liked it.
also, strange choice, but kind of a sensible choice. Kirby removed most of the like artifacts,
Oh yeah,
so that's
yeah,
why there wasn't that much. But
yeah.
maybe it would have been cooler to have that more integrated into that final fight. But also in terms of the setup that they were going for, of like we're gonna
It
trap them
makes
here, it makes
sense
sense. I don't know.
logically.
It's a pro and con.
They avoided the cinema sin there. So
Yes,
there you
they
go.
absolutely did.
Let's talk about the twist. Let's talk about the
Okay,
killers here,
yeah,
Tucker. Because who we have is the slutty roommate. I don't
yeah.
remember her name. Hannah, maybe something
No,
like that.
no, it starts with a C, maybe.
Maybe. Spider from
Quinn,
Avatar: The Way
Quinn.
of Water.
Yeah,
Quinn. Okay. Spider from Avatar: The Way of
yep.
Water.
Who we always called Spider, and I don't even care to know his name.
Nope. And Ethan Lambry or something like that.
Don't do it. Don't say that name. His name is Spider.
And Dermot Mulrooney, who is the detective on the case
Yeah,
here. And they're all one big family. They are the family members of Richie from the first film, Jack Quaid in the first film,
the
and
fifth film.
fifth film, excuse me. The first in these trilogy, the Legacy sequel trilogy.
Hmm.
And I thought the twist was good. Maybe I was trying to do a little bit too much, trying to figure out who the killer is here, because I did peg two out of the three. I
Yeah,
did not anticipate the spider being a secret brother,
yeah,
or anything, or them being family members of Richie
yeah.
for that matter. Um, but I did peg it a little bit. I did get it. I think about halfway through the film.
Hmm.
After Quinn was killed, I think is about when I got it.
Sure. Yeah,
Um, but I thought the twist was good. It didn't blow me away in any
yeah,
way, and maybe
yeah.
it is just because I was just trying to figure it out so much.
Maybe, yeah. I don't go in expecting to be blown away by them. I just want them to be interesting
Sure.
character wise, and I think that
Yeah.
that succeeded in tying it in to the events of the fifth film of killing Richie, and then
Hmm.
them coming, the whole family coming back for revenge, and that having the Ghostface killers be a little more expanded than they ever have been, with
Yeah.
three versus usually two. I thought
Yeah.
that added a nice cat and mouse dynamic to that final action set piece that we hadn't seen before because we'd never had three killers. And the idea that they're going after her for this very specific reason, revenge for the last killer being killed, I think is it's a totally serviceable. It's not ridiculous, but it's a totally
Hmm.
serviceable way to like connect back all these characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
also
think
having
so.
an adult Ghostface killer, someone they were
Yeah.
spending time with across the course of the film. I think that having the policeman be one of the killers, I think, is a good subversion of what we usually get. It's usually teenagers.
Yeah. We've spent time with our killers before, but yeah. It is interesting, and I'll give it that. But the one thing I did want to talk about is uh who usually I'm talking about we reserve for spoilers who dies, but now we're
Hmm.
talking about who doesn't
Yeah,
die. 'Cause that's another big criticism I have here. Even in Scream 2, when we are talking about, more of our main cast are vulnerable, the survivors are vulnerable, they say that again here. We're in a franchise now. Our main characters can die. That is
yeah,
explicitly said. And Scream movies are all about telegraphing what they're about. And that doesn't happen here.
yeah,
Our core four, I won't say make it out unscathed, because two of them are heavily scathed.
yes,
But they all make it out alive again. And I don't know, I don't like that,
yeah,
frankly. Because even in 2, we got the death of Randy, a fan favorite character, the one who always explained the rules. We get his death in broad daylight, as they said, in that van. And they do multiple fake out deaths for characters here.
yeah,
Specifically the two twins who are half of that core four. And I didn't like it, frankly. I think that it's showing that our writers here maybe don't have what it takes to kill
sure,
off one of these
yeah,
characters.
yeah,
They aren't confident in the cast's ability to continue on after one of the main four die. I think it's a real indictment of what we're going forward here with our characters.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a solid criticism. I think that the pro and con weight for me is I want to see the four of them together in a
Hmm.
future film. Of course, robbing me of that gives would have given this film more potential weight. But I think that for me, it's the not killing Gale or Kirby that feels a little
Yeah,
more stupid.
yeah. I
Because
forgot that Gale doesn't die either.
yeah, but she she
Yeah,
she doesn't she doesn't die in like a really lame way. Of they're like,
yeah.
oh, we feel a pulse, and then that's the last time we see
Oh
her.
yeah, we get up we someone comes back from the hospital and says Gale and Mindy are gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah. And that I think not killing Gale is where I'm like, really? Because
Yeah,
she could have gone out with the bang, but then she says, make sure to tell Sydney that he didn't never got me. And I'm like,
yeah,
and I was fully convinced she was gonna die in that moment. I'm like,
yep,
that's not true. And then oh, no, it is true. Oh, but
yeah,
that makes this less interesting. And it just means
yeah,
she's gonna come back and do the same thing again in the next one. And maybe
yeah.
this is my the fact that I don't like Gail very much, and I don't really care to see her keep coming back. But
Hmm.
not killing her, I think killing her would have given the film stakes like killing Dewey was in the last one.
Yeah,
That was a
exactly.
great death. And even though I don't like Gail, her dying here would have added that stakes to this film that you're right otherwise is lacking because we lose Mindy's girlfriend, and then the killers.
Yes.
And of course, I do want to give commends to the opening 15 minutes of this film
Oh
that are
yes.
Tony Revolori and Samara Weaving, and they both die, and it's a really funny subversion of this, and it's like placed in the big city, and it's like all
Yeah.
alleyways, and
We're
I
doing
loved all of that.
we're doing a Drew Barrymore, but the killer also dies by the
Yes,
real killers of the film. It's good. I like it. I do like
yeah,
that opening section. But Tucker, you said a name here. You said Gail says, "Let Sidney know that he
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get me." Let's talk about the Sidney Prescott. Let's talk about the Nev Campbell of it all.
Hmm.
Not in this film,
No.
notably. That was pretty clear. I think from about a year ago when they greenlit this film,
Hmm.
and there was drama about Nev Campbell not being paid enough to return, and her not showing up in this film, and she does not.
Yeah,
And I saw a tweet saying that her lack of appearance in this film is handled very well, and I
yeah,
disagree.
yeah. I disagree as
There's
well.
one line from Gail where she's like, "Sydney took the kids and her husband somewhere else.
Yeah,
She deserves she says she deserves her happy ending."
yeah.
And that just seems like bit of an insidious write-off for me when the point of that character not showing up is that our staple of the franchise, our main character since 1996, is not being paid enough. What not being paid what she feels she deserves, as opposed she said as opposed to male stars in the
Mm.
same role.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. That seemed kind of icky to me, first
No,
and
it,
foremost, and it's also just blatantly a bad write off of this
yes.
character.
And it's just a bad line too.
Yeah.
Of it feels like they're making sure that we know that she's still around and she's
Mm-hmm.
out there and she's having her happy ending, kind of like how Rocky wasn't in Creed 3 and had a
Yep.
pretty lame ending in Creed 2.
Yep.
Which is something that we criticized Creed 2 for, and actually it worked a lot better in Creed 3.
It did.
But yeah, I absolutely did not like that moment. And there are a number of those moments in this film where it's like, okay, that writing is a little on the nose. This is a little ham-fisted. You're reaching a little too far here for the meta commentary. But I personally, even though I like that to a certain extent,
Mm-hmm.
I also feel that cringiness with the point. It's the point of the Scream movies, and them going for it maybe is a little more on the nose here than it is usually.
Yeah.
But that line absolutely does stick out to me of like
Yeah.
feeling on the nose.
I think it is the on the noseness and the cringiness of it, and again tying back to like they try to make our characters so cool. Like
Mm,
our characters in Scream movies are never cool. Like they're always movie nerds and stuff like that, and that's not really the thing here. They're trying to make them cool and edgy. I feel like as opposed to other Scream films, but.
yeah.
In any case, I feel like I was too negative during this review, so I will say, while I'm there for those 2 hours, when Ghostface is running around trying to stab people, we're fighting back against him, we're hitting him in the face with frying pans and the
Yeah.
like. I'm feeling the intensity of these scenes. I think the Scream movies always bring that. I love Ghostface as a slasher villain because he's so much more tangible and so
Mm,
much more like vulnerable,
Personable.
maybe be a person of no, maybe so much more vulnerable than like a Michael Myers who's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
of
an
course.
unstoppable force, where you could hit Ghostface and like make him trip over stuff.
Hmm.
And that's why people like Ghostface in the Scream films, and it's still present here. So I must give credit where credit is due. They're staying true to the heart of Scream to some extent, but not enough in my mind.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, we'll be back for Scream 7 because that I'm pretty sure just got greenlit a couple days ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is on track, I believe, to be the biggest opening for a Scream film.
Clear the air. I gotta say it. I have to
Oh,
say it. We got multiple lines where we were
oh, yeah,
hinting
yeah.
towards the return of Matthew Lillard of Stu. Okay, and we do not get him. We do not get Stu back. We get the TV. We get a line where they say, some people still think Stu's alive, and I'm like, come on, baby, give me that stew. I want that stew. I want to cook up some stew right now.
Yep.
And
I'm
not in
hungry
this
for that
movie.
stew.
They owe me. Matt, Tyler, Kevin Williamson, you owe me for that stew, okay? I
Yeah.
want to see him in Scream 7. Give me my
I
boy Matthew Lillard.
I think that is totally possible and likely, and I would really love to see Scream 7 completely change up what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming up with Scream 7 right now. Guys, hire me. Hire me. I'm writing it right now.
What
Look
is
at
it? What
me.
is it? What is it?
Da-da-da. Obviously, the setup and the implication is that our two main characters, Sam and Tara, enjoy the killing, and they're leaning into this role. And I do think that leaning into that even further and making them killers that we're siding with and following, and they're going
Mm-hmm.
out and killing other people. I think maybe it's the people that are writing things about Sam online. Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
is that they find out that Stu is alive and they seek him out and hunt him down and he's fighting back against them. I think that there's so many ways that they can continue these characters and subvert what the series has done before,
Mm-hmm.
that they set up and they tease a couple times, like, oh, having a past character become the villain and stuff. I think they should go whole hog. I think they should do it. Of maybe it's
Yeah.
the twins versus the sisters. I'd watch that.
Round out the new trilogy. Let's get it done here with
Yeah.
Scream 7. I'm excited. I'm still excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this review, everyone, and we will see you for Scream 7. No reviews till then.
No reviews till then. Oh my god.
Not every BLB video needs a post credits.